So thank you very much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you here in this virtual room. And I will do a brief introduction about you. And then after you can start. And hopefully you will be able to share screen. And otherwise we go with the flow. So Sara is a professional in sustainability, and she specializes in sustainable transformation and circular economy. She has a strong academic background in this field, and she supports clients in navigating their opportunities when it comes to circular transformation. Notable work in the field was her master thesis about barriers to circular economy and a case study on circular business models together with KleenHub. In her consultancy work, she has a strong expertise in international aspects, particularly at the European level, with a focus of legislation and policies on circular economy, laying the groundwork for her strategic advisory on circular business model, especially on cross-Nordic projects. She's in Denmark, by the way. And Sara has been part of the EU Taxonomy, the CSRD, the PPWR. She can tell you what's more about that, and has supported her clients on waste management, raw material pressure along the value chain. Her experience is working with both private and public transport organizations across different sectors and countries, ensuring her versatile and impactful insight. So, Sara, you can start. Let us try to share screen, and hopefully it will work.
Yes, I have prepared some slides, and I hope share screen.
Yes, it works. We see the parallel notes, but it's good. If you can now go to full view.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. Here we go.
Yes, fantastic. Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you for the support, for keeping this running. Okay. Thank you, Guillermina, for the introduction, and just generally thank you to the entire team for inviting me. I'm quite excited to be here and to share some of my experience with you. Experiences as a sustainability consultant working especially with circular economy. Yeah, I'm still relatively fresh in the field. I've only started to dive into the world of circularity about like 2.5 years ago, but I would still say that, yeah, there's some really cool cases there that I hope I can inspire your students with. From what you told me earlier, there's mostly an audience of design management students here.
Yes.
And you also told me that you touched upon the concept of circular economy, etc. already. So I'm not going to go into that. I was hoping to shed some more light into kind of the business perspective of circularity.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what I'm going to do. And yeah, I was just quickly going to say a few words about me, even though you already did talk about some of my circularity work already. But so, yeah, who am I? I'm originally from Germany, but have been living for about 3 years in Copenhagen now. I put my age on the slide because I have 4 days of my 20s left, and I felt like I need to celebrate that. Yeah, but I've been with Deloitte for a bit more than a year now as a consultant for sustainability and circular economy. And since then, as you also already mentioned, I've been involved with quite some regulatory work, some strategy work in different industries, the maritime, defense, over to beverages producers, but also construction and buildings, jewelry industry, and many more. But I wasn't always on the kind of green side of life. It was actually quite a journey for me to discover the topic of circular economy and also make it a purpose that I want to contribute to. I actually started out studying international business with a focus on supply chain management in my bachelor's. It was a double degree, so I did half of it in Germany and then the other half in France. After that, I had a couple of jobs more in a sales and marketing space in different tech companies. Before I, in the middle of the pandemic, thought it was a great idea to quit my job and pursue a master's program, which I then did. And it was a master's program at Copenhagen Business School, hence why I moved to Copenhagen. And the program called Business and Development had quite a focus on development studies in the global south, and especially sustainable development. So yeah, it was just a space that I found super interesting with us in the global north, doing our thing and then causing quite some climate chaos. And then now many countries in the global south are dealing kind of with the aftermath and trying to figure out a different path, not to mirror what we've done. So it was just a really interesting space, and also kind of a segue for me to discover circular economy. And it just made sense. I really just felt like it offered a quite an alternative to our take, make, waste societies, which is really at the heart of the problem. And so, I decided to specialize in that. I did some research cases in the field and also wrote my master thesis about barriers to circular economy. And now I'm trying to accelerate that circular transition with my clients in my work as a consultant. And how I do that, I hope I can show you more about that in the coming hour. Here's what I'm planning on talking to you about. I would like to take a look at the status quo. So how circular is the world? Followed by drivers, challenges, and opportunities. And then talking about some cases that I've came across with clients. And I hope we'll have some time for Q&A at the end as well. And without further ado, how circular is the world? Now, I know that it's actually, quite an abstract question to ask, and also a really abstract question to answer. Nevertheless, that's a question that we tried to answer, Deloitte, together with an NGO called Circular Economy. And we tried to find an approximate number. And here it is, marked in red. We found in the Global Circularity Gap Report from 2023 that was published at the beginning of this year, that the world was 7.2% circular in the year 2022. Wow. So it always assesses the previous year. And it's quite a low number already. And to top that negativity, it's even a decrease. So the trend shows a decrease in the degree of circularity since, as an example, I put 2020, where it was 1.4% more circular. Now, of course, I said it already, it's quite an abstract construct, and in the methodology, they're working with lots and lots of proxies and assumptions, but still, you can already make take some some insights out of that tendency that we're not really performing as we should. And the report also tries to come up with some reasons for why that could be. And one big reason is that the rate of general extraction of raw materials and virgin materials is still on the rise. So there's still a rising demand, which is satisfied by newly extracted resources. And at the same time, those resources are kind of going into stock. And what that means is that they basically end up in roads and homes, and then they're locked up for decades in this infrastructure. And it takes some time until they're, deassembled or recycled or whatnot. And so we cannot kind of recycle to the rate that we're extracting resources. The report just shows that we cannot kind of recycle our way out of the dilemma that we're in terms of scarce resources and planetary boundaries. But to also give a bit hope through that report, it shed some light on key levers and ways of how to accelerate the circular economy. So we really have to start narrowing the loop. We have to slow down the loop, regenerate across the loop, and recycle where it makes sense. We sometimes see in also many companies actually think that circular economy equals recycling, which is obviously not the case. I'm pretty sure you know. It's one of the kind of least desired solutions within the different solutions that we have. For example, in the Ellen MacArthur butterfly diagram, it's recycling is one of the outer loops, and I think I have one slide about that. So it's one of the really outer loops. So we actually really want to keep the materials and the value and the products at their highest value. So recycling should actually be really our last resort. If we, want to satisfy circularity aspects. And then, achieving 100% circularity is basically not possible. But I mean, we should probably aim for more than 7% at least, and also try to stay within the planetary boundaries. I think the overshoot day this year was sometime in August. If we could move it a little bit earlier into the year, that would already be, I guess, a great success. And then what the report also finds is the four areas where we need to see a really fast shift. And these areas are especially food systems, manufacturing goods and consumables, the built environment, and mobility and transportation. So these are the areas where that have a pretty big impact, and where shifting to more circular solutions would help us increase the degree of circularity way faster than maybe in other areas. I put you the link here. I think I'm going to share the slides later on
in the chat. Yeah.
If you're interested. And then real quick, I just wanted to mention that there's also a circularity gap report for Switzerland. I haven't been part of that, so I cannot really say a lot about that. But what I know is that the degree that was found is 6.9%, so even less than the global degree. So I hope there's I hope you guys here in the audience are going to do something about that.
You bet.
Yes. I contributed to the global report. However, there's I wrote some case studies, and as part of one case study, I interviewed someone, the founder of Chiang Mai Life Architects. Mm-hmm. And I would just like to quickly show you what they do, because they are building super interesting buildings only out of bamboo and some other natural materials. And when I say bamboo houses, it's not just some beach huts or something that you can imagine, but it's actually super, super sophisticated buildings, as you can see here. The founder, Herr Rosenlieb, I think is his name. He is a super, super passionate bamboo enthusiast, I would say. He's actually a doctor by training, but always had a thing for architecture and construction. And he just made his passion kind of his job and his business at some point. He's based in Thailand, and he has been studying bamboo for years. And he's really kind of revolutionizing also architecture and the engineering behind it, because we're used to concrete, steel, and these kinds of materials that we usually see in our houses. And so lots of physical rules and laws are based on or applied to these materials in a very different way than you would use it to build these kinds of houses with bamboo, because it's still some sort of a living material, right? So he's really I mean, it's a piece of art, I would say. But there's also lots of thoughts and research that goes into it. Bamboo grows much faster than other types of wood. It grows within, I think, 7 years. So he really looked at his entire value chain and supported bamboo farmers, local bamboo farmers in the area, helped them to come up with a really systematic system of growing and then harvesting it, and then kind of dividing the land into 7 different fields. I'm not sure. I'm making this up with 7, if 7 is the number, but in different fields, so that they can have regular harvests and not having to wait, several years until the next bamboo harvest comes up. So he puts a lot of thought into this, and he's just a really inspiring person. So I also put a link here. He has some really cool videos on his website as well. Yeah. So what I just touched upon is a pretty big driver, I would say. I mean, just the mere fact that the degree of circularity is so low, and we're seeing lots and lots more effects from the way we're extracting resources, the way we use them. We're creating too much waste that ends up in landfill and or in the ocean. So all that good stuff that I probably don't have to explain to you. All of you, we all know that. But so the urgency in itself is a driver, but then there's another really big driver, and that is the changing regulatory environment. And by that, I'm pointing especially to the EU, because they to date have the most ambitious agenda in terms of upcoming regulation. And I know that, I mean, I'm not quite sure actually how fast EU law gets, not adopted but replicated or transposed into a Swiss version. But I'm working a lot with Norwegian clients, and I know that Norway also is has, I think, a similar status as Switzerland. So, but they're really leaning on the developments in the EU. So that's why I think it's still quite valid. And also, most of the regulations will at some point also apply to companies outside of the EU, simply because they want to place their products into the EU market. So that's why I think it's still valid talking about it, yes. Even though regulations are sometimes not the coolest topic. Nevertheless, I can tell that it really is, top 3 driver, I would say, for clients coming and talking to us about sustainability or talking to us about circularity. It's because they do see the need, or they just hear about this wave of regulation coming up, and they obviously fear non-compliance. So it really starts from looking at, okay, first of all, what do we have here in this whole big regulatory jungle? What is relevant for my business? And then what do I need to be compliant? You're looking at the gap. What do I already do? What do I already do well? Not so well. And then upon that, that's where then the strategic work and the business implications start to kind of form. So that's definitely something that I've seen with most of our clients. Yeah, real quick about the European deal and how the mechanism works. So the European Green Deal is basically the big plan for the EU's economic growth. It has a couple of focus areas, but sustainability is definitely a big one. It goes hand in hand with like a big digitalization agenda, because that is a big enabler for sustainability and circularity. When it comes to reporting, tracing, data, etc., we need to be more digital. And just creating a just and informed economy. So as you can see here on the left, right, many policy initiatives, and especially those under the Circular Economy Action Plan, they really cater to, on the one hand, create sustainable products, like, for example, the eco-design for sustainable products regulation, then a strategy for circular textiles, and then also a revision of guidelines for construction products. But then on the other hand, what is really important is to empower consumers to make informed purchase decisions. And so what falls under this is something called the Green Claims Directive. You might have heard about that, but that is a really, I think it's going to be a big one, because it basically tries to fight greenwashing. Of course, to what extent will that be possible? I don't know what the EU is going to come up with in this directive, but it basically tries to avoid companies making big claims without having to substantiate them. And I think that is already a big improvement from where we have been the years back. And then also a really big one is the right to repair. That one really targets electronic devices. So making them last, first of all, making electronic devices last longer, but then also building them, designing them in a way that they are easier to repair and less likely to become waste. Electronic waste is still a huge problem, but there's definitely a big effort to trying to minimize that. And then on the right side, I put some reporting regulations, just because these are the things that companies come to us with and want to find out what it means to them. So it is especially the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, because so up until now, reporting on sustainability matters for a large number of companies was kind of voluntary. But with that directive, it will become mandatory. And not only mandatory, it will also be it will level the playing field. So you will have to report according to certain standards, and that way the reports are going to become comparable, which is exactly what as needed in order to then, trigger certain effects from that. So let's say companies that are publicly traded, not only then, generally companies will aim to perform better because having a good sustainability report or performance will help them not only have a better reputation in the market and better success with the users and consumers, but it also means that banks are more likely to give better access to funding, etc. So that is really the mechanism behind it, and yeah, we're starting to see some changes in the market. And then talking about, so that was a lot of drivers, and a big opportunity for companies will be to leverage circular business models. And I don't know if you've heard of this work here from the OECD. They've done really great work on the 5 circular business model of the future. And I'll just walk a little through them. I would say. So the first one, circular supply. And if we look at, I think it's the next one. Yeah, here's the butterfly framework that you probably know. So that one would be a very, very close loop to the inner part, the value chain, right? So it's really like a preferred kind of way of conducting business. I'd say an example of that would be sustainable and bio-based agriculture. Mm-hmm. So basically a loop where the inputs are bio-based, and even byproducts, go easily back into the loop, or the waste becomes compost, or maybe the input of another product. So I think that is a really, really good example of a circular supply business model, and definitely something that should be and probably could be replicated in other, maybe in food systems, right? So that's a big one. And then a second business model, probably something that you've come across, is the sharing platforms. So basically there's a product or an asset that is not fully utilized by the owner, and then in the meantime, when it is not utilized, it becomes sort of waste. And so making it accessible for other users to use it, instead of acquiring that same asset that then otherwise would be 10% used and then 90% not used, like maybe a car, 10% used and then 90% parked, for example, or maybe something like a vacation home, like a vacation apartment that you only go to in the summer, and then the rest of the time it is empty. It's not like it ends up on any landfill or it harms anyone, but it's just unexploited potential, so to say. So the sharing platform, we've seen some examples of that already, like for example Airbnb. I guess that's a good example of that. But then also in the mobility field, we have something in Denmark, but also in Germany, I know it exists, that's called Share Now, or in other countries it's called Drive Now, I think. So it's a fleet of cars distributed over a certain area, mostly in cities, and then you can access the cars via an app, and that way you get the service of driving from A to B yourself, as if it was your car, but you don't have to buy your own car, basically. And then something that often overlaps with the sharing platforms is the business model product as a service. And I think there we also see more and more versions of this, popping up in the markets. It basically means you don't sell an item or a product, but you sell the access to it. And so the ownership never shifts to the user, but it remains with the manufacturing company, or not necessarily maybe with the manufacturing company, but the service providing company, so to say. And so that way, that company has a big interest in keeping those products at their highest value and maintaining them well, because they, via subscription model, have a continuous cash flow model, or let's say income model. That's probably better, the more correct term maybe. So they have a regular income, but they don't have to invest all of that income into the product if from the get-go they design it and maintain it really well. So that's just that's quite a good business model, I guess, for some companies. And then product material life extension. So maybe you can also see as we go down, these business models kind of represent the loops in the Ellen MacArthur Foundation here. And the more we go down, the more they distance themselves from the main value chain and lose in value, basically. So yeah, number 4, product and material life extension. That basically means that you refurbish, you repair, remanufacture products. So something that we see a lot with electronics. There's a lot of startups actually really rising and growing in that field. Like, for example, I know that in the DACH region, there's Refurbed from Austria, for example. And yeah, many other players that are starting to leverage that kind of business model. And then the last one, resource efficiency and recycling. Again, as I said, it's actually one of the least preferred business models if we want to be very strictly circular. But today it is one of the business models, or kind of one of the waste avoidance solutions that we see a lot. So many companies, many big corporations start collaborations, maybe with startups or whatnot, to somehow give life to their residual materials in another way. But again, that way we only postpone the problem of the waste. We don't entirely avoid it. An example? Yeah, we have lots of examples of maybe there's this Swiss company actually called Freitag. And I know that they're really doing lots of cool work and also exploring with new materials, etc. But the very first product that I at least was aware of them, the products made out of how to say that, residual materials from trucks. That was some sort of, could we say, upcycle, remanufacture. It was a mix, I would say, from 4 and 5. But I know that they're starting really cool new initiatives. So probably also something interesting for you to check out. This one was just to remind ourselves of the loops in the Ellen MacArthur Foundation butterfly framework. And then this one, I think I left the slide in here to highlight the need for collaboration across the value chain. So what you can see here is a very traditional, very common linear value chain, right? And then lots and lots of opportunities to create kind of spin-off loops, I would say. So we often show this to clients, and we have them list their different stations from product design to potential end-of-life station of a product, and then just look at, okay, where can we start initiatives to create loops. But actually, for many companies, and also I think this is where you will come into play, the absolute essential step is the very first step, which is the product design step. It's there where you completely you go through the entire steps, I mean, ideally, of the product journey, so to say, or material journey. You first of all think of the need. What does the consumer even need, right? And how can that need be satisfied? Do we have to sell lots and lots and lots of items of something, or can we be the owners of those items and just rent it out? Or how can we make our products circulate within the markets or within the economy? And how can we make sure that they come back to us, right? And that's a huge challenge, is to re-educate consumers that have gotten used to extreme levels of convenience. And I include myself totally into that, right? I'm guilty of having, I don't know, X amount of coffees to go, when I could easily go with a reusable cup. And yeah, that is there. I am aware that there's definitely a behavioral change that I have to consciously do. But many consumers, many users might not be even aware, might not care, or in stress moments or whatever, just go for the most convenient solution. And so that is really also, I think, the job of the product designers to already have that in mind, that it will be very difficult to convince a user of going 10 extra miles for that product to return home, basically. So yeah, I think it's always a really good exercise to go through this kind of view and identify hotspots, opportunities, risks along the value chain, not just in terms of regulation, but also in terms of raw material pressure. Are we using a lot of steel? Are we using a lot of sand? These are materials that, might be a bit difficult to get access to in some years from now. So yeah, these are some questions that we get confronted with customers. And then I think I have another really good example also of collaboration. Also, yeah, this builds on this as well. You probably have seen these kinds of you've seen these examples in all shapes, maybe in the supermarket. It's often food packaging. I think the last time I saw something where it said that this is biodegradable was when I bought a yogurt. And then you're in front of the supermarket shelf and you're like, oh, I really want to do, I want to go for the good choice. and I will take the biodegradable yogurt, and you're eating the yogurt, you're feeling great, and then you want to throw the packaging away. And I mean, I myself, I'm wondering every time, where do I throw it? Because it looks like plastic, it feels like plastic, it behaves like plastic. For me, like I usually put it into the plastic bin, but it says it's biodegradable. So yeah, it's these are the things that we come across in our everyday life. So we as consumers were not educated into what does biodegradable mean. Does it, like, do I have to do something? Do I have to put it in water so that it degrades faster? Or do I put it into the bio waste, and does it degrade at the same speed as, you know, real bio waste? These are things that I oftentimes the producers of I guess in this situation, yogurt, they sometimes don't even talk to the packaging manufacturer about what it takes. Could there be a manual printed on the packaging so I know what to do? Or even worse, oftentimes, and this goes back to the value chain, oftentimes who takes care of the waste? It is something that the yogurt manufacturer is not even in touch with. They've probably never talked to, here in Denmark, it's the municipality that takes care of waste, and yeah, for the most part. And so I can't say that my yogurt manufacturer and the municipality have ever talked about where to put that packaging of my yogurt. And so this is what I mean by increased collaboration. There has to be an exchange of knowledge. You have to sit down with people that you've never been sitting together with, because yes, they are in your value chain. Your product at some point touched or went through these hands, metaphorically speaking, but there has never been an interaction. And so that is really also, I guess, a key message here, that no yogurt manufacturer will become circular by themselves. It is a joint team effort. So we're going to have to map our suppliers, our procurers, like everything. We need to know where things come from and where they go, and find better solutions so that we know where to put the biodegradable packaging. Yes, I think I just wanted to highlight that, yeah, I'm always confused. Is it the yellow, blue, or green bin? Yes, I already brought some cases. I don't know how much more time we have, Guillermina. I have a couple of more, but
go for one. Let's see where we are. We started late, so I hope the participants can stay for some more minutes.
Yeah. I think then I would go and talk about these ones.
Okay.
Sorry, I need to quickly drink something.
Yes, no problem.
So yeah, I like these examples because, again, they touch upon packaging. That was what Guillermina referred to earlier, the PPWR. It's actually a regulation that is upcoming, and it's called Packaging and Packaging Waste Regulation, which is going to give a lot more conditions and requirements to packaging providers, so companies that sell packaging, but then also to companies that use the packaging, and also the middlemen in between that bring packaging, procure or import packaging, maybe from outside of the EU as well. And the reason why this is important, packaging is such a huge topic, not only because we need to find better solutions to make them either reusable or to have them to recycle them better, but it's also a huge branding topic. And so there's a great example from Sprite, for example. Sprite has been, and yeah, I don't know the age distribution in the audience, but Sprite has always been the green bottle. So there's been a huge branding and marketing machine behind the campaign of, you identifying Sprite with green, with that with that color, just like we identify, like we know, red or white print on red, that's Coca-Cola and this the very certain shape. So there is some thoughts behind it. Obviously, companies want to position themselves in a certain way, like, I don't know, premium or everything above and below that's possible, but also to be distinguished and just differentiate themselves from other products. So Sprite for decades was packaged in a green bottle, but then they found that green PET is less recyclable than just transparent PET. So now they're having this big campaign to kind of reshape the look of Sprite bottles, and just to get the users or the consumers used to the new look of their product. And it's important because the new packaging regulations are not just going to hit Sprite. So it's going to hit every every company basically that you see in, let's say, in the beauty industry. The packaging is such a huge part of the selling points of beauty products, right? So the nicer, the shinier, maybe glitterier the product is, the more it adds to the experience of buying the products. So that is really interesting to see how companies are gonna, twist around, completely maybe reinvent their look. And yeah, I think that's a really interesting example of what it does to branding and the strategic positioning of a company. And real quick, Pandora is having a collaboration with a company that recycles metals from used electronic devices. So if you have Pandora jewelry, the probability is quite high that there is some recycled metal from a laptop, maybe. Mm-hmm. Yes, I think I will maybe stop it here and stop sharing.
And open for questions.
Yes, if there are any questions.
Yes.
I'm happy to give it a try. Let's see if I can answer.
Yes, I'm pretty sure we will have questions. We also have some alumni that are also very interested in sustainability. And we have teachers that might also be asking questions. I think that the content of your presentation was fantastic. For me, particularly, you were highlighting a lot of things where I see design managers trying to or playing a role. One of them is a supply chain, and that is something that we are working in the second year project. So some of the second year students might have questions. You mentioned food system. The third year is working right now with food systems. It has worked with food systems before. You also mentioned the need for collaboration, and that also plays a role with the Sustainable Development Goal 17, and that is partnership for the Sustainable Development Goals. And I think that is perhaps a new area that is offering new shops within sustainability. So we see more roles in community management or in engagement, partnership development or partnership management. Those are new roles that is very interesting for me to see emerging. So also the shop landscape is changing because of the new regulations, because of the new trends. and the need to change. So
yeah, definitely, yeah. I think from some of the experience with clients, we can sometimes see that exactly what you say, some kind of facilitator, someone who opens the door to I don't know, communities, or helps understand who a company even has to talk to. Sometimes they don't know where even to start, or they don't have all the different kinds of stakeholders on the radar that they need to involve. So that's a really big one, I think, and maybe even also touches upon the whole kind of behavior change / educational aspect of it. So some facilitators that facilitate yeah, kind of that have the sensibility or the feel of where easier, convenient change is possible, and then that way, you know, step by step push the bar a little bit, because we were used to doing a lot of things a couple of decades ago. It's just now that you can go around the corner everywhere and drink a coffee and throw it away 2 meters after that, you know. It hasn't always been like that. So yeah.
The need for facilitation of conversation, what we talk with the students is the need to explore with stakeholders and different stakeholders, and depending on the topic of the supply chain, for example, will be the different stakeholders, what is the potential for change? And sometimes what is the potential for change in time? So what can I do immediately? What can I do that require change at different levels? For example, training or the development of new materials.
Yeah, and what are the different interests within the value chain? We're not going to force change onto players within the value chain. It must be some sort of a win-win for the different players, right? We cannot lose this out of sight, because that I see sometimes companies get the reproach of they're just, you know, going for growth and profits, and forgetting about sustainability. But it is fair that they want to remain profitable, because that is the whole reason for existence. We won't have companies or these organizations if they are not able to, you know, remain profitable. So we need to find the business case, and I try to highlight that with the also the business models. We need to find the business cases behind it. Otherwise, it will be really difficult to push for change, because we're comfortable-ish somewhat with what we have right now. At least we think that, because we're only look short-sighted. But yeah, we need to find the win-wins within the value chains and the business cases for the different participants, so that we can facilitate the change.
I think that's a great point. I'm looking at the name of Jorge Hirter. He's the instructor teaching that in the program, but we need new business model, but that requires new ways of thinking. That requires learning. And so that's also an area that I see the potential for design managers, that is fostering learning within organizations, so sustainability can take place, or circularity can take place, or regeneration. That is key. We cannot do it from one day to the other. As I said, it might require the development of new materials. So what change level is necessary for the adoption of circularity practices to take place in organization? I think that will be important to avoid having a false dichotomy, that is, or profit or sustainability. And I can see more and more in local organizations that is both. we talk in the school about growing in quality, not just in quantity.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a concept that was developed by Frishot Capra. He has in his blog, I can share the link then after with the community, a very good post about that. What does it mean to grow in quality rather than doing more? And unfortunately, it's a dominant model that doing more, but not necessarily doing better.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe myself, tell me what you think about that, that requires a shift in thinking.
Yes, definitely. It requires a different set of targets, goals, and a way of thinking. Yes, of course. But I do think that with the new set of regulation, for example, that the EU is trying to push for, we do see that there is a paradigm shift away from only common, I would say, KPIs and goal setting towards including and kind of, I don't know if that's a proper way of putting it, but like twisting sustainability within and making it part of every conversation, basically.
Yeah.
When we see that it starts with oftentimes with a compliance exercise within companies, that's different kinds of people usually that deal with compliance and legal aspects, legal maybe, I don't know, but like compliance and internal controls, that sits somewhere else in the company than the strategy and the long-term outlook that sits somewhere else, that sits with, you know, the C-suite and is on board level, basically. Mm-hmm. So when we manage to get the topic from compliance move up to these kinds of levels, that is where then the conversations start and of course it's not on board level where materials are, you know, changed. That's not what I mean. Yeah. But like the shift in business models, the shift in should we sell a washing machine or should we sell the service of clean clothes, right? That doesn't happen on the compliance level. It also doesn't happen where materials are procured. That happens in the C-suite and on board level, where companies, you know, set out the 5-year strategy, corporate strategy, etc. So that is a shift that I think is that's at least the maybe the goal or to push these conversations into different fields of companies.
Yeah. We have a question in the Q&A.
Yes.
And it says, a part of our project is knowledge transfer. And this is a project the second year students are doing on leather supply chain in Switzerland. As there is a common misconception that vegan leather is more sustainable than animal leather, do you have examples of re-education?
An example of re-education generally, or in the specific field of leather?
I will say re-education in general. The person can clarify, but I will say re-education in general.
That's a tough one. An example of re-education. I mean, I guess unlearning certain practices happened throughout the development of several societies, I guess, and also throughout the life of individuals. I think it starts so early on. So if we can start in kindergarten and elementary school of already creating the awareness for certain things. I think that is a good start for re-education, but maybe not as with such a sophisticated topic as comparing the footprint or whatnot of certain things. I guess that's a bit too much for small children, but like starting to have a different connection to nature and to materials and to consumption. Right, so maybe already creating environments with less waste, so that children are not even used to waste and throwing things away, or if they have snacks or something in a kindergarten, to choose things that are not wrapped in 10 times of layers, so that they're used to unpack several times. And then that is really, that I think that does something to children and to us generally, just to expect that for something to be good and tasty and clean, I have to make sure it had like 10 layers. I'm making this up, maybe kids forget about that, but just to to already design out waste there, so that later on, if they go out in the world and they see so much waste, they question that, and they're like, that doesn't have to be like that. I'm used to something else and it is much better.
Sarah,
so
in the example you were showing of Sprite, the packaging changed because the material is more recyclable. What do you think was the re-education process to people buying Sprite?
A good question. I think so from a branding and like marketing perspective, I think you start with a big campaign, right? And you start to make the viewers and the consumers get used to the new look. And you obviously sell it as something super innovative and something great. And you might sell it as something else rather than like, this is the new Sprite. Like, we've been green all the time. I mean, to be honest, I haven't followed the way Sprite actually introduced that. So I don't want to spread fake news here. But like, I think there's so many ways of doing it, but it obviously starts with a campaign and that you show that you reinvent yourself and this is our new look. And it doesn't matter why you do that. Maybe you go full and you say like, green is not green. That's why we went for transparent. Now you either do that depending on the kind of campaign and the messaging that you want to bring out there. But that's actually a good point. I'd be curious to find out more about that as well.
We have one more question. David says, very interesting talk. Thank you. I would love to know where you see potential for impact-driven roles. Example in circularity besides consulting, especially in the geographical location of Denmark.
Yeah, impact-driven roles. I think already that product designers will have a huge responsibility. I know I said that before, but I think there's I think it's great that you have
service designers too, right?
Exactly. Any type of the designers, as they are like kick off the process of creation or creating something. So I think there is a lot of responsibility there. And then definitely, as we already said, also roles that will be at the intersection of different activities within the value chain. Roles that have insights that go maybe cross industry clusters, or roles or people that see synergies that other people cannot right away see. Because I think that way you can connect people that otherwise wouldn't know that, oh, this person's waste is my input. Like, for example, there's this founder, I think the startup is called Insutex, here from Denmark, and they are creating insulation material out of old textiles.
Okay.
And so let's just say there's a textile washing service that's often, I don't know, you know, has textiles. Maybe washing service is not the best, but any kind of service provider that has some sort of residual textiles that they would otherwise just try to throw away, or maybe recycle, but maybe these kinds of businesses don't know that even the tiniest little bit of textile has a good use in walls to keep us warm in winter or cold in summer, right? So anyone who knows to connect people that should talk and create innovative solutions together. Now, I don't know who naturally could that be, but definitely.
I think that
investors that talk to a lot of startups.
Hotels use a lot of textiles.
Hotels, yes,
and
hotels,
hospitals.
Yes. I'm just referring to I don't know which kind of roles naturally have the the big outlook and happen to not be in their kind of rabbit hole, but those kinds of people that just see beyond their own activity in their own industry and just connect the dots. Those people in those roles will have a great impact, I guess.
Connect people and advocate for change.
Exactly. Yeah.
Help them see the potential for change. Both. I think that they need both skills.
Yes. Yeah. Also people that are a little bit, creative. Think a little bit out of the box, even that's quite a buzzword, but
yeah. Do we have more questions from the audience? Otherwise, we can wrap it up. I don't see all of you. Yes, I see one. No. No. I think it was a fantastic presentation. Thank you very, very much. And
thank you for having me.
Also to thank Melanie for the connection. Thank you, Melanie, for making this possible. I think it was very, very valuable to have you here sharing your knowledge and experience with the students. And we see how we go about. Maybe we invite you to provide feedback to one of the students' project or something like that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I'm
always happy and curious to hear what's happening
Super.
in universities.
Thank you very, very much.
Yes, you too. Thank you.
Thank you.